We have some disturbing new details on the horrific ISIS church attack in northern France. Investigators say that the two terrorists who slit a priest's throat and held several nuns and worshippers hostage forced them to take pictures and record videos while holding them at gunpoint. Today, Pope Francis commented on the attack, just the latest in a string of international terror incidents. The director of the Holy See press office welcomed Pope Francis and asked him to speak about the events yesterday in France. The Pope responded saying, quote, "A word which is repeated a lot in insecurity, but the real word is war." Seth was on the plane, our Seth Doane was on the plane in Krakow, Poland when he made those comments. Seth, we know that Pope Francis said that the world is at war, but what did he exactly mean by that?
Well, what he meant, Rena, was something that he said a number of times now, that the world is at this sort of piecemeal war. He refers to World War I and World War II. He says this is another war. It may not be as defined, it may be organic, but he said this is a war between rich and poor. This is a war for natural resources. But he was specifically referring to those, to the killing, to the slaying of that 85-year-old priest in France. And he said that there has been persecution of Christians. He widened it from just that incidents in France to say that there have also been there's been a persecution of Christians in Africa, in Nigeria as well. Then he came around through the plane and met all of the journalists who were traveling with him here to Krakow. And then he went back to the front of the plane and picked up the microphone again as if to clarify. And he said, "I want to be very clear that I'm not talking about a war among religions. I'm talking about this broader sense of the word, of this war for resources." He even punctuated at the end by saying "capito" in Italian, "do you understand?" So it was almost as though he reflected a bit on what he said and went back to make sure that people were very clear he was not declaring war or calling it a war among religions.
And Seth, he also made these comments as he arrived in Poland for World Youth Day. Can you explain to us what the significance is for this trip?
Well, you can probably see all of the people behind me here in front of this beautiful old 11th century castle here in downtown Krakow. There are more than 1.5 million, upwards of 1.8 million Catholic youth, young people who have come to be together. You can kind of think of it, it's dubbed the Catholic Woodstock. People sing and dance and pray and are together to discuss issues that are faced by the Catholic Church. Of course, this is interesting. There's heightened security here after that Iraqi was found on Sunday with traces of explosives. He is still detained. And of course, there have been a spat of issues of violent attacks around Europe. We've seen them, we're covering them, of course, in Germany and in Nice 2 weeks ago. So there is a sense of heightened security here. And everyone is also paying attention, or many here are also paying attention, to that attack on that Catholic priest just yesterday in France. Rena?
Seth Doane in Krakow, Poland. Seth, thank you for that report.